Rise and Fall of Nations. Episode 2. Somalia, 1960 to 2026. SomaliSEAT. In 1960, a new nation was born. A nation filled with hope, unity, and a shared dream. That nation was Somalia. From the very beginning, Somalia stood as a symbol of possibility in Africa, a people with one language, one religion, and a strong cultural identity. Many believed this unity would make Somalia one of the strongest nations on the continent. But history would take a different path. This is the story of Somalia, its rise, its fall, and its ongoing journey. Let's begin at independence. In July 1960, British Somaliland and Italian Somaliland united to form the Somali Republic. It was a rare moment in Africa, two regions choosing unity over division. The early years were promising. Somalia adopted a democratic system. Elections were held. Leaders were chosen through the ballot. There was optimism. There was pride. There was a belief in the future. Education began to expand. Government institutions were forming. The country was building its identity on the global stage. But beneath this hope, there were early challenges. Political competition began to grow intense. Clan influence started to shape decisions. Corruption began to appear. The foundation was there, but it was not yet strong. In 1969, everything changed. A military coup took over the government. Leadership shifted from democracy to military rule under Siad Barre. At first, many welcomed the change. The new government promised discipline. It promised to fight corruption. It promised unity beyond clan divisions. And in the early years, there were real achievements. A national language was officially adopted. The Somali script was standardized. Literacy campaigns spread across the country. Education improved rapidly. Infrastructure projects began. Roads, schools, and public systems expanded. For a time, Somalia was rising again. But over time, the system began to change. Power became centralized. Decisions were controlled by a small group. Opposition voices were reduced. The government became stronger, but less flexible. And then came conflict. In 1977, Somalia entered a war with Ethiopia over the Ogaden region. At first, there was success. But soon, the situation turned. International alliances shifted, support changed, and Somalia faced defeat. This moment was critical, because after the war, the internal strength of the country began to weaken. Following the war, economic challenges increased. Resources became limited. Public services began to decline. At the same time, political pressure grew. Opposition movements started to form. Trust in leadership began to fade. And gradually, division increased. The unity that once defined Somalia was weakening. By the late 1980s, the situation had become serious. Conflict between the government and opposition groups intensified. Violence increased. Instability spread. And in 1991, the central government collapsed. This marked the beginning of one of the most difficult periods in Somalia's history. There was no national government. Institutions disappeared. The system that once held the country together was gone. The 1990s became a period of fragmentation. Different regions formed their own administrations. Local power structures replaced national authority. Conflict continued in many areas. Infrastructure was damaged. Economic systems broke down. Education and healthcare suffered. For many years, Somalia was seen as a nation without a functioning state. But even in this difficult time, the story was not only about collapse, because something important was still alive: the resilience of the Somali people. Communities adapted. Local systems emerged. Businesses continued in new ways. Telecommunications developed surprisingly fast. Trade networks formed. Even without a strong central government, people found ways to survive. This resilience became one of Somalia's strongest characteristics. In the 2000s, efforts to rebuild began. Transitional governments were formed. international support increased. Step by step, institutions started to return. It was not easy. Progress was slow. Challenges remained. But there was movement. By 2012, a new federal government was established. This marked a new phase. Somalia was no longer without a system. It was rebuilding. Federal member states were recognized. Governance structures began to develop. Security forces were re-established. Education and infrastructure projects resumed. Hope began to return. Slowly. However, the challenges did not disappear. Security issues continued. Political disagreements remained. Economic development was still limited. Climate challenges, such as droughts, affected livelihoods, and the process of rebuilding required time, patience, and strong leadership. From 2015 to 2026, Somalia has continued its journey. There have been improvements. Urban development has increased. Cities like Mogadishu, Garowe, and Hargeisa have grown. Businesses have expanded. Diaspora investment has played a major role. Technology adoption has accelerated. Mobile banking, communication systems, and entrepreneurship have all contributed to progress. At the same time, key challenges remain. Political stability is still evolving. Security concerns are not fully resolved. Economic inequality exists, and institutional strength is still developing. Somalia today is not the same as it was in 1991. But it is also not yet where it aims to be. It is a nation in transition. So what can we learn from Somalia's story? First, unity is essential. Somalia began with strong unity, but division weakened it. Second, leadership matters. Strong leadership can build a nation, but centralized power without accountability can weaken it. Third, systems must be strong. Institutions must be fair, stable, and trusted. Without strong systems, progress cannot last. And finally, resilience is powerful. Even after collapse, Somalia did not disappear. Its people adapted. They rebuilt. They continued. This shows something important. The fall of a nation does not have to be the end. Recovery is possible. Growth is possible. A new future is possible. Today, Somalia stands at a critical point between past challenges and future opportunities. The decisions made now will shape the next chapter. Will the country strengthen its unity? Will it build stronger institutions? Will it create opportunities for its people? These are the questions that define the future. The story of Somalia is not just about rise and fall. It is about learning. It is about resilience. It is about the possibility of rebuilding, even after the hardest times. This is SomaliSEAT. The story continues.